Hi, I'm Allison from Move Smart Movement and Boomerang Pilates. Today we're going to do internal and external rotation with some resistance. You'll want a booty band of some kind. I like this nice wide soft one. You'll need a ball, squishy ball, and something that you can roll out with. I like the yoga tune-up balls, but you can use whatever you have handy. And as you know, I do love me a little before and after, so we're going to start with the before. Band goes above your knees and come into the 90-90 position. And then really, this is great for people who are hypermobile. Really create some internal resistance. Press with your top leg, keeping your bottom leg down as long as you can, and then resist into the band as you fold your 90-90 over the other way. So you're trying to create a slow, restrained, contained movement. There's nothing floppy about this. And we're going from internal rotation on this side into external rotation and vice versa on the back leg. And obviously you manage your range of motion however makes sense for you. If it works better for you to come back onto your hands, then you do that. But know that when you come back, it's easier to end up kind of swinging and flopping. So you really want to maintain that pressure and that resistance. So let's do some things, and then we'll come back to this afterwards. So you're going to start with a ball. We're going to roll out your glutes, your hips, your legs. Roll wherever feels good to you, but really see if you can let your body drop down into the ball and sort of use the ball to press your glute tissue around rather than just rolling on top. We're trying to get some, not just pressure, but actual movement, kind of like a peanut butter sandwich, where you're dragging the tissues one way relative to the ball going the other way. And then you can shift over and do the same thing on the other side. And you put as much or as little pressure as feels good to you. If you're sensitive, then you want to take more weight into your hands and feet. And if you're less sensitive, you can really let your body drape down onto the ball. Whatever works for you and your nervous system is perfect. And then from there, shift over to kind of roll through your inner thighs, your quads. This is like using a rolling pin. You want to press down on the ball and push the tissue forward or push the tissue sideways so that, again, it's less about just rolling on top of your body and more about using the ball to move your tissues around. It's bringing some circulation, some hydration, getting your brain to connect to these muscles more effectively. And you do the same thing on the other side. As you know, if you follow me, I will say this all the time, it's not the same from side to side, so it's really worth paying attention to which side is more sensitive, which side is less sensitive. Where do you feel the sensitive spots are different from one side to the other? It just gives you more information about how your own particular body works, which is cool. It's good to have more information. Okay, so that gets a little bit of juiciness happening. So we can put that aside. Now we'll go for active internal rotation. So lie down. You're welcome to pop something behind your head if that works for you. You're going to line yourself up so that my eyes are closed because it's very sunny. Line yourself up so that the outside edges of your feet line up with the outside of your mat and are pointing straight forward, which will feel kind of pigeon-toed. The ball goes halfway between your knees and your pelvis. And then you really think about creating weight through the base of your ribs and length through your spine. Relax your neck and shoulders. And then squeeze and release. So because we're looking for very specifically movement in your hip joint, see if you can keep your spine, your ribs, and your pelvis really still while you do this. So if you find when you squeeze you also kind of butt tuck, then play around with what would you need to do if the hoped for outcome is stability of your pelvis and just moving your legs and your hip sockets. That might change how intensely you squeeze or where you aim your squeeze from. So you can really think about how you're moving your legs and your hip sockets and engaging your inner thighs in this state of internal rotation. So we can do a couple more of those. And then lose the ball and come back to your resistance band. Band goes above your knees. You come back into your 90 and 90 position. And now we're going to focus just on the beginning phase of the external rotation. So you anchor your foot into the floor, you anchor your other knee, you anchor your pelvis as best you can, and you turn your leg in your hip socket. So your knee is the thing that's moving most obviously, but see if you can think about this motion as being created by driving your leg bone around in your hip socket, right? Which is different from moving your knee. You're keeping your torso and your pelvis really still and quiet. It takes some muscle to do that, right? You're not clenching or bracing in a way that is forced, but you want to have this alertness to all the rest of your muscles that are helping to keep you still everywhere except right here in your hip. Of course, this is another place we're trying to be so specific that you absolutely could feel big differences from side to side, and that's okay. You move as best you can. So your range might be bigger or smaller. You might find you can't be as stable on one side. Certainly your butt might be higher on one side compared to the other. You might find it's harder to zero in on that movement of your leg and your hip socket on one side compared to the other. It's all good. Play around with it. And then we're going to go to the nastiest part of this series, which is the active internal rotation. So lose the band. Come back into your 90 and 90 position. But this time you're going to turn. We're going to do actually a series of positions here. So you can start with your forearms on the floor. So you're in a rotation here. And then press your shin and your heel up towards the ceiling. You're keeping your knee down, you're keeping your pelvis stable. This is the most forgiving position. And then you can come up onto your hands. So you're going to stop and you're not going to progress past the version that feels good to you. So you can come up higher. Every time you come higher, you can bring your hip down and it becomes, you can see my range is getting smaller and smaller as I go. So you can really work to hold everything super still and just turn your leg in the hip socket, keeping this leg down. And as you can see at this point, I can just barely get my leg off the floor. You will be shocked to discover this could be different from side to side. So come on down, forearms on the floor, bottom leg anchored, spine long. Press your heel and your shin up while keeping your knee down on the floor. Play around with that, see how that feels on that side. And then come up if that's appropriate for you. If this doesn't work, then you can come back down on your forearms. How does that feel? Come up onto one hand, bring your torso further forward. If that doesn't work for you, go back to both hands on the floor. Reaching your hip down, bringing both hands off the floor. Now you have to really use your core to keep you stable and upright. So this is this active internal rotation. And then, because I do love my before and afters, grab your band and let's go back into the full motion, remembering that the goal is to find the specificity of motion of your legs in your hip sockets and this creation of resistance. So there's nothing floppy. And if you are hypermobile, if you tend to go for bigger motions, this might feel very contained. It might feel incomplete, but that's okay. You're doing something different with your brain. You're doing something different with your muscles. It's a great thing to provide your body with some opportunities to explore different ways of moving. Likewise, if you're used to moving really quickly, this slowness might be a bit frustrating, but again, novelty, diversity of movement, they're all so good and so great for you. So give it a try. meld this into your practice, see how it feels. If you have questions or comments, put them down below. If you like the series, hit the like button. See you later.